This title is presented to you by Soundlibra.com. For more audiobooks like this, click the link in the description or visit our website at Soundlibra.com. Welcome to The Reading Habit. Let's unlock the power of books.
Today, we're laying the groundwork and exploring why reading truly matters. Just a quick heads up before we get started. While we discuss the mental and wellness benefits of reading, this isn't medical or professional health advice, so always consult a professional for your specific needs.
Great point. So, why dedicate time to reading in a world buzzing with distractions? It's more than a hobby. It's a cornerstone of personal growth and lifelong learning. Reading gives us access to a universe of ideas, experiences, and knowledge we might never encounter otherwise.
When you say access to knowledge, how does that benefit us practically?
Think of it this way. Every book is a door to someone else's mind, their research, their expertise. Whether it's history, science, or fiction, reading allows us to absorb this information. It's like having countless mentors available anytime. This exposure broadens our perspectives, deepens our understanding, and sparks curiosity.
So, it's about expanding our horizons and learning about things beyond our immediate experience.
Indeed. And it's not just about facts. Reading fundamentally impacts our cognitive abilities. It's a powerful workout for the brain. When we read, we're actively processing, making connections, and building new neural pathways.
A workout for the brain. I like that. How does this workout improve things?
One of the most significant cognitive benefits is the enhancement of memory and retention. Following a narrative or an argument, remembering characters or concepts, strengthens our memory muscles. The more we read, the better we become at recalling information, not just from books, but from daily life. It's like exercising a muscle.
So, by engaging with text, we're training our brains to remember things better. That's a huge benefit for learning new skills or keeping our mind sharp.
Precisely. Furthermore, reading consistently exposes us to diverse vocabulary and sentence structures. This naturally improves our own communication skills, both in writing and speaking. We become more articulate, our arguments clearer, and we express ourselves with greater precision.
That makes sense. When you read well-written material, you absorb those patterns and improve your own language. It's like osmosis.
Exactly. And beyond cognitive benefits, reading plays a vital role in our emotional and personal development. It cultivates empathy. By stepping into different characters' shoes, experiencing their joys and struggles, we develop a deeper understanding of human emotions.
Empathy through stories. That's a beautiful way to put it. It helps us connect with others.
It truly does. Reading can also be an incredible source of stress relief. Losing yourself in a good book transports you away from daily pressures, offering a much-needed mental escape. It allows your mind to relax, recharge, and return with renewed focus. Think of it as a form of mindful meditation.
I've experienced that. Curling up with a book can feel like a mini vacation for the mind. It's a way to disconnect from the chaos and find peace.
And this foundation, this understanding of why reading is so profoundly beneficial, is crucial. Before we dive into how to read more effectively, how to select books, and how to retain information, we need to be clear on the why. Because without that solid motivation, the techniques themselves won't stick. This is the bedrock of building a sustainable reading habit.
So, to recap, reading provides access to knowledge and broadens understanding. It's a cognitive workout, enhancing memory and improving communication. It cultivates empathy and serves as stress relief. That's a compelling case for picking up a book.
It really is. And this is just the beginning of our journey on the reading habit. In the coming episodes, we'll explore how to refine your reading identity, master book selection, and delve into speed reading strategies. We'll also cover active reading, effective note-taking, and how to build a system for retaining what you learn.
We'll cover how to curate your ideal reading list, integrate audiobooks, and foster a reading community. Ultimately, we'll guide you towards making reading an unshakable habit.
Exactly. So if you're ready to unlock your potential through the written word, you're in the right place. This is the foundation. This is why reading matters.
Next episode, we'll begin crafting your unique reading identity.
Welcome back. Last time we explored why reading matters. Now, let's craft your unique reading identity.
That's right, Alex. To build a sustainable reading habit, we need to understand why we're reading. It's about connecting with ourselves and our aspirations.
Exactly. Think of it like this. If you want to become a great chef, you'd have a vision of the food you want to create. Your reading journey is similar. We need to define your unique reading identity.
So, how do we begin to figure that out? It feels a bit abstract.
It can, but it's rewarding. The first step is asking key questions. What are your current goals, both personal and professional? Are you looking to gain new skills for your career, explore a historical period, or find inspiration for a creative project?
Okay, so it's about identifying the purpose behind picking up a book. For example, I might want to read a book on personal finance because I want to feel more in control of my money. That's a clear goal.
Precisely. And that goal informs the kind of books you'll choose. Your why is the compass for your reading life. Beyond immediate goals, consider your innate interests. What topics genuinely fascinate you?
I've always been drawn to stories about ancient civilizations, even though it's not directly related to my job. It's the wonder of understanding how people lived so long ago. That's part of my reading identity too, isn't it?
Absolutely. That curiosity is a powerful driver. It's about feeding your soul and broadening your perspective. Think about your preferred genres too. Do you gravitate towards fiction or nonfiction? Understanding these preferences helps you find books you'll actually enjoy, which is crucial for habit formation.
I tend to bounce around a lot. One week I'll be deep into a historical novel, the next I'm tackling a business strategy book. Is that a problem?
Not at all. It just means your reading identity might be broad and exploratory. The key is to be aware of these shifts. What is important is that even across different genres, there's a thread of intention. For instance, if you're reading a business book, what specific insight are you seeking?
So, it's about being deliberate, even when exploring different areas. It's like being a curator of your own intellectual and emotional journey.
That's a fantastic analogy, Lisa. A curator. You're selecting pieces that resonate with you. Now, let's talk about potential challenges. Sometimes, when we start defining our reading identity, we can feel overwhelmed, especially if our reading habits haven't been consistent.
Oh, I can definitely relate. I have a list of books a mile long, and sometimes just looking at it makes me feel guilty that I'm not reading more.
That's a very common feeling. But that's precisely why defining your reading identity is so important. When you understand your why, it becomes a powerful motivator. If you know you're reading a book on public speaking to overcome your fear of presenting at work, that tangible benefit can push you through those moments of low motivation. It anchors you to the purpose.
So, the purpose acts as fuel when the initial excitement fades. It's like the engine that keeps you going.
Exactly. And this clarity also helps you manage your expectations. Perhaps your goal for the next month isn't to read 20 books, but to gain a deep understanding of one specific topic. Setting realistic targets based on your defined identity prevents discouragement. It shifts the focus from quantity to quality and meaningful engagement.
That makes so much sense. It's about setting yourself up for success by being honest about your goals and interests. We're not trying to become a caricature of a reader. We're trying to become the best version of a reader for ourselves.
You've hit the nail on the head. And as you continue to explore and read, your reading identity will evolve. What fascinates you today might shift, and that's perfectly natural. The process of self-reflection isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing dialogue with yourself.
So, to recap, we've discussed identifying our reading identity by looking at our current goals, both personal and professional, and exploring our innate interests and preferred genres. We also touched on how understanding our why serves as a powerful motivator and helps us manage expectations, especially when facing initial challenges with habit formation.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. By understanding your unique reading identity, you're not just choosing books. You're building a reading life that is meaningful, sustainable, and deeply rewarding.
It truly sets the stage for the next crucial step: how to effectively choose the right books to feed that identity.
And that's exactly what we'll explore in our next episode.
Next episode: The Art of Book Selection.
Welcome back. Last time, we explored how to define your reading identity. Now, let's tackle a crucial question. How do you pick your next book?
That's right, Alex. It can feel overwhelming, staring at a shelf or scrolling through endless online lists. So, where do we even begin when it comes to the art of book selection?
The first step is to remember what we discussed about your reading identity. Who are you as a reader? What are you curious about? This is your compass. If you decided you're a history buff who loves learning about ancient civilizations, that immediately narrows down the options.
So, instead of just picking a book with a shiny cover, we're being intentional. We're aligning our choices with our reader persona.
Exactly. Think of it like this. If you're going to a specific cuisine restaurant, you don't randomly order. You look at the menu and pick something that fits your craving, right? Books are no different. Your reading identity helps you choose the right dish.
That makes sense. So, once we have that general direction, how do we actually find the books? Let's talk about navigating physical spaces first, like bookstores and libraries.
Bookstores and libraries are treasure troves. When you go in, don't just wander aimlessly. Head to sections that align with your reading identity. If you're interested in science fiction, go directly to the sci-fi aisle. Browse the covers, read the blurbs on the back.
And what if you're not sure what genre even fits? For example, maybe I'm interested in learning about psychology, but I'm not sure if I want a textbook or a more narrative approach.
That's a great question. In that case, you might explore a few different areas. You could look at a popular science section, which often bridges the gap between technical information and accessible storytelling. You might also check out self-help or psychology sections. Read the first page or two of a few different books. Does the writing style pull you in? Does the subject matter feel engaging?
It's about sampling then. And don't be afraid to ask for help, right? Librarians and bookstore staff are often incredibly knowledgeable.
Absolutely. They are your guides. Librarians, especially, are fantastic resources. They can recommend books based on your interests and even introduce you to authors or subgenres you might not have discovered otherwise. Don't hesitate to say, I'm looking for something that explores X, and I enjoyed author Y. Do you have any suggestions?
Okay, so we've got physical spaces covered. What about the vast world of online resources? There are so many platforms now dedicated to books.
Oh, the internet is a powerful tool for book selection. Websites like Goodreads are invaluable. You can create lists, track what you've read, and see what friends are reading. More importantly for selection, it provides reviews and recommendations based on your previous choices. If you've rated a book highly, Goodreads will suggest similar titles.
I use Goodreads a lot. I find seeing what friends have read can be a great starting point, especially if you have friends with similar reading tastes.
It's a form of social proof, isn't it? If someone whose opinion you trust enjoyed a book, you're more likely to consider it. Beyond that, major online booksellers have recommendation engines. They'll show you customers who bought this also bought sections. While not perfect, it can lead to interesting discoveries.
And what about online book reviews? Beyond Goodreads, there are countless blogs and literary websites.
Definitely. Many literary journals and reputable websites offer in-depth reviews. These can be particularly helpful for nonfiction or more literary fiction, as they delve deeper into the themes, writing style, and context of a book. Look for reviewers whose tastes seem to align with yours or who consistently review books in genres you enjoy.
So, we've talked about our reading identity, physical spaces, and online resources. Let's bring this together with an understanding of genres. Sometimes people feel boxed in by genre, or they don't know how to navigate them.
Genres are helpful labels, but they're not rigid cages. They group books by common themes, settings, or narrative styles. Think of them as categories on a menu. You have appetizers, main courses, and desserts. Within those, you have Italian, Chinese, Mexican. Genres work similarly.
Can you give us some examples of how genres might map onto our reading identity?
Absolutely. If your reading identity is curious about human behavior, you might explore psychology, sociology, or even character-driven literary fiction. If it's fascinated by the future, you'll likely gravitate towards science fiction, speculative fiction, or futurist nonfiction. If it's drawn to the past, historical fiction and history are your go-to genres.
It almost sounds like your reading identity directs you to certain genres, and then within those genres, you can start exploring specific books.
Precisely. And remember that genres often blend. You might find a historical mystery, a science fiction thriller, or a biographical drama. Don't be afraid to step across those lines. The blurrier boundaries can lead to some of the most unique and rewarding reading experiences. It's about finding books that speak to you, regardless of their precise classification.
So, to recap what we've covered today, first, let your established reading identity guide your search. Second, utilize both physical spaces like libraries and bookstores and online resources like Goodreads and review sites. And third, understand that genres are helpful categories, but don't let them limit you. Explore how they align with your interests and be open to cross-genre titles.
Fantastic summary, Lisa. The art of book selection is really about intentionality and exploration. It's about making choices that genuinely excite you and help you grow as a reader.
It makes the process feel much more enjoyable and less like a chore.
Indeed. And this sets us up perfectly for our next episode, where we'll dive into the fundamentals of speed reading. How can we get through our well-selected books more efficiently?
That sounds incredibly useful.
Next episode, Speed Reading Fundamentals. Welcome back. Last time we covered book selection. Now let's tackle speed reading.
That's right, Alex. The idea of reading faster is incredibly appealing, especially when you have a stack of books waiting. But I think many of us worry that reading faster means sacrificing understanding. So, how do we actually read faster and still comprehend what we're reading?
That's the million-dollar question, Lisa, and it's a perfectly valid concern. The good news is that speed reading isn't about magically absorbing words faster. It's about eliminating inefficient habits and adopting smarter ways to process text. Think of it like learning to drive a manual car. At first, it feels clumsy, but with practice, shifting gears becomes second nature and much more efficient than continuously needing to stop.
Okay, that's a good analogy. So, what are these common inefficiencies we need to overcome?
The two biggest culprits are what we call subvocalization and regression. Let's start with subvocalization.
Subvocalization. That sounds like, saying words in your head while you read.
Exactly. Most people, when they read, they silently hear the words in their mind. It's like you're pronouncing each word internally before you understand its meaning. This process is inherently limited by your speaking speed, which is much slower than your thinking speed.
So, my inner monologue is actually slowing me down? That's wild. I never thought about it that way.
It's a natural habit, developed from when we first learned to read. For effective speed reading, we need to reduce this silent speaking. Now, completely eliminating it is very difficult and sometimes isn't the goal. The aim is to minimize it.
How do we do that? Do we just try to think faster?
Not exactly. One simple technique is to use a pacing tool. This could be your finger, a pen, or a pointer. You move this tool smoothly across the text, slightly faster than you think you can read. This encourages your eyes to keep moving and can help break the habit of pausing to say each word.
So, you're keeping your eyes moving and trying to outpace that inner voice.
Precisely. Another method involves engaging your mind differently. When you're reading, try to focus on the meaning of the sentence or paragraph rather than the individual words. This involves shifting your focus from the phonetic sound to the semantic content. We'll explore more advanced ways to do this later, but for now, just being aware of subvocalization is the first step.
Awareness is key, as always. So, that's subvocalization. What's the other big one? Regression?
Regression is the habit of going back and rereading words or sentences you've already read. Often, this is done unconsciously. You might feel you didn't fully grasp something, so your eyes dart back. In most cases, this isn't necessary. Your brain has already processed the information.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of that. I'll be reading along, and suddenly I'll feel this nagging doubt, and my eyes just snap back a few lines. It totally breaks my flow.
It's a significant time sink. To combat regression, the same pacing tool, your finger or a pointer, becomes your best friend. As you move your finger across the line, imagine it's pulling your eyes forward. When you feel the urge to go back, consciously resist it and keep your pointer moving forward.
So, the pointer acts like a gentle guide, keeping you moving in the right direction and preventing those backward trips.
Exactly. And with both subvocalization and regression, the critical takeaway is this. Speed reading is a skill, and like any skill, it requires deliberate practice. You won't become a speed reader overnight. Start with short passages, focusing on one technique at a time. Maybe for a few days, you focus solely on minimizing subvocalization with your pointer. Then, introduce the regression technique.
That makes sense. You build up the habit gradually. What kind of improvements can people expect?
When these fundamental techniques are practiced consistently, many people find they can double or even triple their reading speed within a few weeks, all while maintaining or even improving their comprehension. It's about training your eyes and brain to work more efficiently together. It's not about skipping words, it's about how you process them.
So, to recap for our listeners, we're tackling two main habits that slow us down. First, subvocalization, that inner voice speaking each word, which limits us to speaking speed. And second, regression, the tendency to reread text, which breaks our flow and costs us a lot of time.
That's a great summary, Lisa. And the basic tools to address these are simple. A pacing tool like your finger and conscious effort to keep your eyes moving forward and focus on meaning over sound. Remember, the goal is efficient information intake.
This is really encouraging. It feels much more achievable now that it's broken down into these core principles. I'm already thinking about how I'll apply this to my own reading pile.
Fantastic. Next episode, Advanced Speed Reading Techniques. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to The Reading Habit. Last time, we covered the fundamentals of speed reading.
That's right, Alex. We focused on understanding our current speed and setting initial goals. It was all about building that foundation.
Exactly. And today, we're going to build on that foundation with advanced techniques to push your reading speed further and make information intake more effective.
I'm excited. I often feel like I hit a wall with my reading speed, so I'm eager to learn how to move past it.
Let's dive in. A powerful advanced technique is expanding your peripheral vision. Your eyes move in jumps and pauses called saccades. Typically, eyes fixate on one or two words, then leap.
I recall that from last time. Your eyes focus on words before moving.
Precisely. Expanding peripheral vision trains your eyes to take in more words with each fixation. Imagine your reading vision as a cone. Most of us use a very narrow one.
So we want to widen that cone?
Exactly. Train your eyes to see words to the left and right of your focus. This dramatically reduces the number of fixations needed per line.
How do we practice this? Just try to see more?
It takes practice. Try consciously taking in 3 to 4 words per fixation. Focus on the middle word of a short phrase and let your peripheral vision capture the others. Practice by looking at a line and trying to see the first 3 words, then the next 3 with fewer eye movements.
That sounds challenging initially. My eyes might want to dart around.
It will be. You might even notice a slight dip in comprehension at first, but that's normal as you retrain your eyes. Your brain will adapt, and comprehension will catch up, often improving because you're not bogged down word by word. Another key technique is chunking.
Chunking? Like breaking things into smaller pieces?
Yes, but for reading, it means grouping words into meaningful phrases or chunks instead of reading them individually. Your brain naturally tries to make sense of sentences as a whole. We just encourage that.
So, instead of reading "The cat sat on the mat," I'd see the cat as one chunk, sat on as another, and the mat as a third?
Precisely. You're processing meaningful units. This ties into peripheral vision. The wider your vision, the larger the chunks you can take in. When listening, we process phrases, not individual sounds. Chunking applies that to reading.
That makes sense. It's about processing meaning units.
Exactly. To aid chunking, practice progressively reducing fixations per line. If you make 5 fixations, aim for 4, then 3. This requires conscious effort.
Are there other advanced methods?
Absolutely. Regression suppression is another. This means consciously stopping yourself from rereading words or sentences unless absolutely necessary for comprehension.
Oh, I do that a lot. If I think I missed something, my eyes snap back.
That's a common speed killer. Think of your reading flow like a river. Regression builds dams. We want a smooth, continuous flow.
How do we suppress regression? It feels automatic.
It takes discipline. Become aware of when you're doing it and gently guide your eyes forward. Using a finger or pen to guide reading can help by providing a physical marker that encourages forward movement. Trust your initial comprehension.
So, to summarize these advanced techniques, we're expanding peripheral vision for more words per fixation, chunking words into meaningful phrases, and suppressing the urge to reread.
You've got it. Practice consistently. These techniques can boost your reading speed without sacrificing comprehension. It's about training your eyes and brain for efficiency. Remember, speed reading is about reading smarter, not just faster.
It really is about unlocking more time for learning and enjoyment. By becoming more efficient, we can tackle more books, absorb more knowledge, and expand our horizons.
And that's the core of the reading habit. We want you to read more, remember more, and learn more. These advanced techniques are crucial steps.
For our listeners, the takeaway is to practice these techniques gradually. Pick one, like expanding peripheral vision, and focus on it for a week or two. Then introduce chunking, and then work on regression suppression.
Excellent advice, Lisa. Gradual implementation is key. Next episode, we'll shift gears to actively engaging with the text, moving beyond just reading words to truly understanding and interacting.
That sounds fascinating. We'll delve into active reading.
Indeed. Next episode, active reading, engaging with the text. back to the reading habit. We discussed advanced speed reading techniques. Now, let's focus on a critical skill for deep learning, active reading.
That's right, Alex. Speed is great, but if you're not understanding or remembering, what's the point? Passive reading is like watching a movie with no sound. Active reading is about turning up the volume in your mind.
Exactly. Passive reading is like a sponge soaking up water. It holds it. Active reading is like a chef using an ingredient. They examine it, combine it, and cook it. It's engaging your brain with the text.
So, how do we become these active reading chefs? What are the key ingredients?
The first is questioning. Before you read, ask, what do I know? What do I want to know? As you read, ask, why is this happening? What does this word mean here? How does this connect to earlier ideas?
What if I don't know the answers?
That's okay. The questions guide your reading. They create curiosity. If a passage is important or confusing, jot a note or a question mark in the margin. It prompts you to revisit it.
Okay, questioning is key. What's next?
The next technique is predicting. Based on titles or headings, what do you think the author will say next? This makes you an active participant, not just a passenger. When the author confirms your prediction, it's reinforcing. When they surprise you, it's an opportunity to learn.
That boosts engagement. It's like solving a puzzle as you read.
Precisely. This leads to the third element, relating. Connect new information to what you already know. How does this new idea fit your mental framework? Does it confirm or contradict your beliefs? Does it remind you of an experience? This transforms information into knowledge.
This sounds like how you make materials stick. So, questioning, predicting, and relating. Are there other aspects?
Absolutely. Another vital technique is visualizing. For abstract concepts, create a mental image. Reading about a battle? Picture the soldiers. Scientific process? Imagine the gears turning. Even a simple mental sketch helps anchor information.
I find visualizing helpful for fiction, but hadn't thought of applying it to nonfiction. It's about translating abstract ideas into mental pictures.
Exactly. And finally, a crucial part of active reading is summarizing and synthesizing as you go. Don't wait until the end. After reading a section, pause and rephrase the main idea in your own words. What was the core message? This forces deep processing.
This is so important. Pausing to summarize means you have to actively recall and process what you just read. It's like a mini brain check.
It truly is. So let's recap these pillars of active reading. Questioning, asking why, what, and how. Then predicting, anticipating the author. Next, relating new information to your existing knowledge. We also employ visualizing, creating mental images. And finally, summarizing and synthesizing regularly, rephrasing ideas in your own terms.
Questioning, predicting, relating, visualizing, and summarizing. That's a powerful toolkit for moving beyond just reading to truly learning. It's about turning reading into a dynamic conversation with the author and yourself.
That's a perfect way to put it, Lisa. When you engage actively, you're a detective, a discoverer, and a builder of knowledge. This approach can even reinforce faster reading. Why? Because active engagement sharpens your focus, helping you process key information efficiently.
So, even with speed reading, active techniques ensure speed doesn't sacrifice comprehension and retention. It's about making every word count, not just in speed, but in understanding.
Precisely. This active engagement is the perfect springboard for our next episodes, where we'll dive into note-taking and building a robust retention system. Active reading is the first crucial step in making sure what you read stays with you.
Excellent. So, for our listeners, try to consciously apply these active reading strategies: questioning, predicting, relating, visualizing, and summarizing to your next reading session. You'll be amazed at the difference it makes.
Next episode, we'll build on this foundation by exploring the powerful practice of note-taking. Welcome back to the Reading Habit. Last time we dove deep into active reading, learning how to truly engage with the words on the page. Today we're building on that by exploring a crucial skill, the power of effective note-taking.
Taking notes feels so fundamental, doesn't it, Alex? But often, it's something we do without much thought. We might scribble down a few words or highlight passages, but are we really doing it effectively?
That's exactly right, Lisa. Many of us were taught to take notes in school, but the methods we used then might not be the most effective for our adult learning and reading goals. Good note-taking isn't just about recording information. It's about processing it, understanding it, and making it stick. Think of it as building the foundation for your memory.
So, it's more than just transcribing what we read. How does note-taking actually help us remember better?
Great question. When you take notes, you're doing several things simultaneously. First, you're actively decoding the information, deciding what's important enough to write down. This act of selection forces your brain to engage with the material more deeply than passive reading. Second, you're synthesizing the information in your own words, which is a powerful way to solidify understanding. And third, you're creating a personalized reference guide that you can revisit later.
I can see that. It's like your brain is saying, okay, this is important. I need to process this. What are some of the different ways we can take notes?
There are many methods, and the best one often depends on the type of material you're reading and your personal learning style. One of the most common is linear note-taking, where you simply write down points in a sequence. You might use headings, subheadings, and bullet points to organize your thoughts.
That's what I often do. It feels straightforward.
It can be, especially for straightforward texts. However, for more complex ideas or to see the relationships between different concepts, linear notes might not be enough. That's where visual note-taking methods come in, like mind mapping.
Ah, mind maps. I've seen those where you have a central idea and branches spreading out.
Exactly. With mind mapping, you start with a core concept in the center of your page. Then, you draw branches extending outwards for main related ideas, and further branches for supporting details. You can use keywords, colors, and even small images to make it more engaging. It's fantastic for brainstorming, understanding the big picture, and seeing connections that linear notes might hide.
That sounds really useful for articles or books with interconnected themes. It helps you see how everything fits together.
Precisely. Another method worth mentioning is the Cornell note-taking system. Have you heard of that one?
I'm not sure. Tell me about it.
The Cornell system divides your page into three sections: a large area for main notes, a narrower left-hand column for cues or keywords, and a bottom section for a summary. You take your main notes during a lecture or while reading. After, you fill in the left column with questions or key terms that your notes answer. Then, at the bottom, you write a concise summary of the entire page.
So, the left column acts as prompts for later review, and the bottom is a quick overview?
Yes, it's designed for active recall and review. When you're studying, you can cover the main note-taking area and use the cues in the left column to test yourself. What is this about? What caused that? What were the effects? It really forces you to retrieve the information from your memory.
That's a very structured approach. It sounds like it requires a bit more dedication than just jotting things down.
It does, but the payoff in terms of retention is significant. Think of it as investing a little extra time up front for a much greater return later. Beyond these structured methods, even simple techniques like highlighting can be effective, but only if done thoughtfully.
What do you mean by thoughtfully? Most people just highlight everything.
The goal of highlighting isn't to mark every sentence. It's to identify the truly essential phrases, key terms, or main arguments. If you highlight too much, you haven't really identified anything important. A better approach is to highlight sparingly and then perhaps add a brief note in the margin about why you highlighted that section.
So, highlighting is a tool, but it needs to be paired with some form of annotation or summary.
Exactly. And don't forget the power of margin notes. Jotting down your thoughts, questions, connections to other ideas, or even disagreements with the author can significantly deepen your engagement. These personalized annotations are incredibly valuable when you revisit your notes.
I often find myself thinking, oh, this reminds me of X from that other book we read, or this point is really interesting, but I don't quite agree. Putting that down on paper seems like a good idea.
Absolutely. It transforms your reading experience from passive consumption into an active dialogue. And these notes, in whatever form you create them, are the very first step in building your attention system. They're your raw material.
So, to recap, we've talked about why note-taking is so important for memory and understanding. When we take notes, we actively process information, select what's key, and create our own reference. We explored linear note-taking for straightforward structure, mind mapping for visualizing connections, and the Cornell system for structured recall. We also touched on how to use highlighting and margin notes more effectively.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. Remember, the goal isn't to amass a huge collection of notes, but to create notes that help you understand, remember, and apply what you learn. Your notes are a bridge between the information you consume and the knowledge you retain.
It really emphasizes that reading is an active process from start to finish.
Indeed. And in our next episode, we're going to take these powerful notes and show you how to build a robust system for remembering them, your attention system. Next episode, building your attention system. Welcome back. Last time, we covered active note-taking. Now, let's build your attention system.
That's right, Alex. We discovered that just reading the words on the page isn't enough if we want to truly understand and remember the material. Taking notes transforms us from passive readers into active participants in the learning process.
Exactly. And today, we're building on that foundation. If note-taking is the act of capturing information, then today, we're talking about building a comprehensive retention system. Think of it as the intelligent filing cabinet and retrieval system for all those valuable insights you've gathered.
So, it's not just about taking notes, but about doing something with them afterwards to make sure they stick?
Precisely. The goal of a retention system is threefold: organization, review, and retrieval. We need to organize our notes so we can find them, review them strategically so the information solidifies in our minds, and be able to retrieve it when we need it.
That makes sense. If I have a stack of notebooks or digital files that are just a jumbled mess, those notes are practically useless, no matter how good they were when I first wrote them.
Absolutely. So, let's start with organization. Remember those notes from last time? We need a consistent way to store them. This could mean dedicating specific notebooks for different subjects, or creating a clear folder structure if you're going digital. A common analogy is to think of your brain like a library. You wouldn't throw all the books onto the floor, would you? You organize them by genre, author, or Dewey Decimal System. Your notes need a similar logical structure.
So, if I'm reading a history book, all my notes on that book and maybe even related historical periods should go together?
Yes, or you could have a system where you group notes by theme. For instance, if you're reading multiple books on personal finance, you might have a budgeting section, an investing section, and so on, regardless of which book the specific note came from. The key is consistency. Choose a method that resonates with you and stick with it. Some people love physical index cards, color coding them by topic. Others prefer digital tools like note-taking apps that allow for tagging and linking.
I can see how digital tools might be helpful for linking ideas. I sometimes read about something in a book, and then later, another book mentions a similar concept. It would be great to easily connect those.
That's a perfect segue into the next crucial element: review. Organization helps you find things, but review helps you remember them. This isn't about mindlessly rereading your notes. We need a spaced repetition system.
Spaced repetition, that sounds familiar. What exactly does that mean in practice?
Imagine you're learning a new vocabulary word. You see it today and remember it. If you don't see it again for a week, You might forget it. But if you see it again tomorrow, then in 3 days, then in a week, then in 2 weeks, your brain is told, hey, this is important. It strengthens the neural pathways. Spaced repetition is essentially reviewing information at increasing intervals.
So, instead of cramming all my review into one session, I should spread it out?
Exactly. A good starting point is to review your notes shortly after you take them, maybe within 24 hours. Then, review them again a few days later, then a week later, then a month later. Many digital note-taking apps actually have built-in spaced repetition features, or you can use flashcard apps designed for this.
That sounds much more manageable than trying to memorize everything at once. It allows the information to sink in gradually.
It does. And this brings us to retrieval. The ultimate test of retention is whether you can recall the information when you need it. This is where active recall comes in, which is closely related to spaced repetition. Instead of just rereading your notes, try to actively pull the information out of your memory.
How do I do that?
Cover up your notes. Ask yourself questions about the material. Can you explain the core concept of Chapter 3 without looking? Can you recall the 3 main arguments presented in that article? This active effort of retrieval is incredibly powerful for solidifying memories. Think of it like exercising a muscle. The more you exercise your memory by trying to recall information, the stronger it becomes.
So, even if I get it wrong, the act of trying to remember is beneficial?
Absolutely. When you try to recall and realize you can't, that's a signal. It tells you precisely what you need to revisit. Many people find that creating their own questions about the material and then answering those questions later is a fantastic way to practice retrieval.
This also sounds like it connects back to how we selected books. If we're choosing books on topics we genuinely want to learn about and use, we'll be more motivated to organize and review our notes.
You've hit on a crucial point, Lisa. Motivation is key. If your attention system feels like a chore, you won't stick with it. Make it enjoyable. Find note-taking methods and review schedules that fit your personality and your life. Some people even create mind maps or visual summaries from their notes to aid in recall. Imagine drawing a tree where the trunk is the main topic and the branches are the key subtopics. Each leaf could be a specific detail. This visual approach can be very sticky for some.
That's a great analogy. So, to recap our attention system, first, we need to organize our notes logically, like a well-kept library. Then, we need to review those notes strategically using spaced repetition so the information is revisited at increasing intervals. And finally, we practice actively recalling the information, testing our ability to retrieve it without looking.
Excellent summary, Lisa. Organization, spaced review, and active recall. These 3 pillars form the backbone of a robust reading retention system. When you combine this with the active note-taking techniques we discussed last time, you're creating a powerful engine for deep learning and long-term knowledge acquisition. You're not just reading, you're truly absorbing and integrating what you learn.
It feels less like a passive hobby and more like an active skill development now. I'm excited to refine my own system based on these principles.
That's the spirit. And in our next episode, we'll be talking about curating your ideal reading list. How to choose what to read next to build a cohesive and impactful personal library of knowledge. Next episode, curating your ideal reading list. Welcome back to The Reading Habit. Today, we're curating your ideal reading list.
That's right, Alex. It's like planning a fantastic menu instead of just grabbing whatever's in the fridge. A well-curated list guides us, keeps us motivated, and ensures our reading aligns with who we are and what we want to learn.
Exactly, Lisa. Think of your reading list as a roadmap for your intellectual journey. It's not static, it's dynamic, constantly evolving as you do. So, how do we begin to build this personalized roadmap?
I think the first step, Alex, is to revisit our reading identity. Remember in episode 2, we talked about understanding your interests, your goals, and the kind of reader you aspire to be? That's the bedrock.
Absolutely. If you're passionate about history, your list will look very different from someone focused on personal development or fiction. Your reading identity tells you what to seek out. But how do we organize these discoveries?
One effective way is to categorize. Think about different purposes for reading. For example, you might have a category for deep dive learning, where you're tackling a complex subject. Then perhaps a relaxation and escapism list for those times you just want to get lost in story.
That's brilliant. So, a deep dive category might include academic texts or in-depth nonfiction. Relaxation could be your favorite genre fiction. What other categories might be useful?
A skill building list is excellent for practical knowledge. Maybe you want to learn a new skill for work or a hobby. And don't forget a inspiration and motivation category, books that lift you up and provide new perspectives.
I love that. So, we have categories like deep dive learning, relaxation and escapism, skill building, and inspiration and motivation. When you're building your list, how do you decide which books go into which category?
It comes down to intention. Before you add a book, ask yourself, why do I want to read this right now? What do I hope to gain? For instance, if you pick up a biography, is it to understand a historical figure better, a deep dive, or to learn from their life's challenges? Inspiration?
That clarity is key. And once we have these books listed, how do we move from a collection of titles to a functional list we can actually work through? Tracking progress becomes important here, doesn't it?
Definitely. Visualizing your progress is incredibly motivating. You could use a simple way to keep track, like a dedicated app or even a physical journal. Mark off books as you finish them. Seeing that progress builds momentum.
Momentum is such a powerful force in habit formation. Maybe even planning your next few reads can help. When you finish a book, you immediately know what's next, eliminating that "what should I read now?" hesitation.
Exactly. It removes friction. And don't be afraid to revisit and adjust your list. If a book isn't resonating with you, it's okay to set it aside. Your reading list should serve you, not the other way around.
That's an important point. We're not making a pact with these books. We're curating a personal library of experiences and knowledge. So, let's summarize for our listeners. We've talked about building your ideal reading list by first revisiting your reading identity.
Then, we discussed categorizing your list based on purpose. Think deep dive learning, relaxation and escapism, skill building, and inspiration. The key is to be intentional about why each book is on your list.
And finally, we emphasize tracking your progress visually to build momentum and the importance of flexibility. It's okay to change your mind about a book. This curated list becomes a powerful tool for your lifelong learning journey.
It truly is. It transforms reading from a passive activity into an active, directed pursuit of knowledge and enjoyment.
And this directly ties back to what we discussed in episode 8 about retention. When you're reading books that genuinely interest you and align with your goals, you're naturally more engaged, which aids recall.
It's all interconnected. Your reading identity, your curated list, your engagement, and your attention system all work together to create a robust reading habit.
Building on this, in our next episode, we'll explore a fantastic way to expand your reading horizons and discover new titles, integrating audiobooks seamlessly into your life.
That's going to be a great one, especially for those busy moments.
Indeed. So until then, happy reading and happy curating. Remember, your ideal reading list is a reflection of your unique journey. Next episode, integrating audiobooks seamlessly. Welcome back to The Reading Habit. Today, we're integrating audiobooks seamlessly.
Audiobooks have exploded in popularity, offering a fantastic way to read when traditional reading isn't convenient.
Think about it. Commuting, chores, exercising. These are perfect opportunities to get another book under your belt.
It's like unlocking hidden reading time. But some worry listening isn't real reading. What do you say to that?
When you listen, your brain still processes language, plot, characters, and concepts. Information reaches your brain through a different sensory input. Studies show comprehension can be just as good, if not better, for some listeners.
So, it's about adapting reading to our lives. How can people best integrate audiobooks?
Make the conscious decision to embrace them as a complementary tool, not a substitute. Identify those pockets of time, your commute, your workout, cooking, and schedule them in. Treat listening time seriously.
I like that scheduling, it gives it purpose. What about choosing what to listen to?
Some genres lend themselves well to audio. Fiction, especially thrillers or mysteries, can be immersive. Nonfiction, like history or biographies, is also fantastic.
What about technical books? Following complex concepts might be harder without seeing diagrams or highlighting.
You've hit on an important point. For highly technical or dense nonfiction, where you need to pause or refer back, a physical book or ebook might be more efficient. However, even then, a skilled narrator can make them more palatable. A good tip is to pair it with a physical book or ebook if possible.
So, you can listen while doing other things, and if something is particularly interesting, you can pick up the book and read that part more carefully.
Precisely. This leverages both formats. You get breadth from listening and depth from reading. Listen during your commute, then later reread an intriguing chapter, perhaps jotting notes.
That sounds like a multi-sensory learning approach. You engage with material in different ways.
Absolutely. And this brings us to another key aspect, the narrator. The quality of a narrator can make or break an audiobook experience. A good narrator brings characters to life and conveys the author's tone effectively.
I've definitely experienced that. Sometimes I'll listen to a sample first to hear the narrator.
That's smart. Many audiobook platforms allow previews. Look for narrators with a clear voice, good pacing, and who can differentiate characters.
So we have dedicated listening time, choosing the right genres, and considering the narrator. What about processing the information? How do we ensure retention?
This is where we bring back earlier principles. Active listening is crucial. Pay attention, engage your mind. Don't just let words wash over you.
So, instead of passively having it on, you're actively thinking about what's being said?
Exactly. Ask yourself questions. What's the main point? How does this connect to earlier ideas? What's my opinion?
And note taking? It's harder mid listen.
True, but you can use the pause button. If something significant is said, pause, make a quick note on your phone or in a notebook, and resume. Also, after a session, spend a few minutes summarizing mentally or jotting down bullet points.
I love the idea of using voice notes for quick summaries. It's fast and convenient.
And don't forget discussion. If you're listening to a nonfiction book, discuss the concepts with colleagues or friends. Talking through ideas solidifies them. It's like the tell them what you'll tell them principle, but you're actually telling them.
So, to recap, audiobooks expand our reading volume by utilizing time we might otherwise not be able to read. We should identify listening times, choose suitable books and narrators, practice active listening, and use methods like pausing for notes, post-listening summaries, and discussion to aid comprehension and retention.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. By integrating audiobooks smartly, we can significantly increase the number of books we experience and the knowledge we gain, making reading a flexible, adaptable part of our lives.
It really does transform how we can consume content and learn throughout the day.
Absolutely. And that flexibility is key to making reading a habit that truly lasts a lifetime. Next episode, we'll be exploring how to foster a reading community to further enhance your journey. Welcome back. Last time, we explored how to integrate audiobooks seamlessly into your listening routine. Today, we're diving into a topic that can truly accelerate your reading growth and make the journey even more enjoyable: fostering a reading community. Because let's face it, reading is often a solitary pursuit, but sharing it can amplify everything.
That's such a great point, Alex. I know for me, when I tell someone what I'm reading or ask them what they're enjoying, it often sparks new ideas or makes me approach a book differently. It's like adding layers to the experience.
Exactly. Think about it. When you're reading alone, you have your own perspective, your own insights. But when you discuss a book with others, you suddenly see nuances you might have missed. You encounter different interpretations, and you can even get recommendations for books you'd never have stumbled upon otherwise. A reading community is like having a whole team of guides on your reading adventure.
So, how does one go about finding or building this reading team? For listeners who might be feeling a bit isolated in their reading habits, where do they start?
There's so many avenues, and they often start small. One of the simplest ways is to talk to the people already in your life. Your friends, your family, your colleagues. Do they read? If so, just start mentioning the books you're enjoying. You might be surprised to find a shared interest and organically form a mini group.
That makes sense. I remember a casual conversation with a coworker led to us swapping books and then discussing them over coffee. It wasn't a formal book club, but it felt like a community.
Precisely. And if you don't have those readily available connections, the digital world is a fantastic place to look. Online forums, social media groups dedicated to reading, or even specific genre communities can be incredible resources. Sites dedicated to book reviews often have discussion boards, and many authors have fan communities where readers gather to talk about their favorite works.
I've seen those online groups, and they seem so vibrant. People are sharing recommendations, debating plot points, and even organizing virtual read-alongs. It's like being part of a global book club.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling more ambitious, you can always start your own group. It doesn't have to be grand. You can invite a few friends, decide on a book, and set a date to discuss it, whether that's in person at a cafe or virtually over video call. The key is consistency and creating a welcoming space for sharing.
What are the core benefits someone gains from being part of a reading community? Beyond just finding new books, what else does it offer?
Accountability is a big one. When you know you have to discuss a book at a certain time with a group, you're much more likely to finish it. It provides that gentle nudge to keep you moving forward, especially with longer or more challenging reads.
Yes, the dreaded book slump. Having a commitment to others can definitely help push through those.
Definitely. Another huge benefit is gaining new perspectives. Remember when we discussed active reading and engaging with the text? A community supercharges that. Someone might point out a character's motivation you completely overlooked or highlight a societal issue within the narrative that you didn't initially pick up on. It broadens your understanding significantly.
So, it's not just about finishing the book, but about understanding it more deeply and perhaps even understanding the world around you a little better through the lens of literature.
Exactly. And it can also be a fantastic way to discover diverse voices and genres you might not typically gravitate towards. Someone in the group might champion a style of writing or a type of story that's completely new to you, leading to exciting literary discoveries.
This sounds so enriching. For listeners who are interested, what are some practical tips for making these community interactions successful and enjoyable?
First, set clear expectations. If it's a book club, decide up front how often you'll meet, how you'll choose books, and what the general discussion format will be. Is it a free-for-all, or will there be some guiding questions? Having this framework from the start prevents potential misunderstandings.
So, a little bit of structure goes a long way.
A little bit, yes. Secondly, be an active participant. Share your thoughts, even if they feel unformed. Ask questions. And importantly, listen respectfully to others. Everyone's interpretation is valid, and fostering an environment where people feel safe to share their opinions is crucial. Don't be afraid to disagree, but do so constructively.
That respect is so important for any group dynamic, really.
Absolutely. And third, be open to new ideas. Sometimes the book you thought you'd hate might become a favorite after hearing other people's insights. Embrace that possibility. It's all part of the growth process that a community fosters.
So, to recap, building a reading community is about more than just talking about books. It's about gaining accountability, discovering new perspectives, expanding your literary horizons, and making the entire reading experience more dynamic and interconnected.
Precisely. Whether it's a small group of friends, an online forum, or a formal book club, connecting with other readers can transform your journey from a solitary hobby into a shared exploration. It fuels your motivation, deepens your comprehension, and introduces you to a world of stories and ideas you might otherwise miss.
It sounds like a powerful way to really solidify your reading habits and make them a lifelong passion.
It truly is. Next episode, we'll be discussing how to make reading an unshakable habit, building on everything we've covered so far. Welcome back. We're focusing on making reading an unshakable habit. Welcome back. In our last episode, we explored fostering a reading community. Today, we're focusing on making reading an unshakable habit. We've covered so much ground, from choosing books to advanced retention techniques. Now, let's weave it all together to build a reading practice that lasts.
That's right, Alex. We've equipped our listeners with the tools. Now, the challenge is to use them consistently. It's easy to get excited about reading for a few days or weeks, but life happens. So, how do we move from occasional reading to a deeply ingrained habit, something we just do?
It all starts with revisiting the why. Remember episode 1? We talked about reading as the foundation for learning and growth. When motivation dips, remind yourself of that core purpose. Why do I want to read more? Keep that why front and center. It's your compass when the path gets a little rocky.
So, connecting back to our initial discussions, our personal why acts as the anchor. We've talked about identifying our reading identity, who we are as readers. This habit forming part is about aligning our daily actions with that identity. If you see yourself as a lifelong learner, then regular reading isn't a chore, it's a natural extension of who you are.
Exactly. Think of it like a muscle. You wouldn't expect to run a marathon after one gym session. Reading habits develop through consistent, deliberate practice. And this is where those practical strategies come into play. Let's revisit the art of book selection. Having books readily available that genuinely interest you makes starting easier. No more staring at a shelf, wondering what to pick.
That's a great point. If the next book on your list feels like a monumental task, you're less likely to pick it up. So, actively curating our reading list is key. Having a diverse selection, a mix of fiction and nonfiction, different genres, keeps things fresh and engaging.
Absolutely. And remember those advanced speed reading techniques? They aren't just about reading faster. They're about making the experience of reading more enjoyable and less time consuming. When you can get through a chapter in 10 minutes instead of 30, it feels less like a commitment and more like a breeze.
And that feeling of accomplishment after finishing a chapter or a book, even a short one, fuels the habit. It creates a positive feedback loop. It's like building momentum. Speaking of momentum, we talked about active reading. When you're engaged, asking questions, and interacting with the text, reading doesn't feel passive or like work. It feels like an exploration.
Precisely. It transforms reading from a task into an experience. Now, let's talk about retention systems. Having a system, whether it's a journal or a digital note-taking app, makes the knowledge stick. When you see the value of what you're learning and retaining, it reinforces the desire to keep reading. You're not just consuming words, you're building a reservoir of knowledge.
And that reservoir of knowledge then informs future selections, creating a virtuous cycle. The more you learn, the more curious you become, and the more you want to read. It's like setting up a self-sustaining engine for growth. Even incorporating audiobooks seamlessly, as we touched on, can fill those pockets of time. Your commute, your workout, household chores. It's about integrating reading into the fabric of your day, not just setting aside a specific chunk of time.
That's a fantastic way to put it, Lisa, integrating it into the fabric of your day. This brings us to the concept of habit stacking. You pair a new habit, reading, with an existing, established habit. For instance, after I finish my morning coffee, I will read for 15 minutes. Or before I go to bed, I will read 2 chapters. This leverages the existing neural pathways and makes the new habit feel more automatic.
Habit stacking. I love that. It makes the new behavior feel less like a separate chore and more like a natural extension of something you already do. It lowers the barrier to entry. And what about those days when, even with habit stacking, you just don't feel like it? We can't always rely on pure motivation, right?
Absolutely not. Motivation is a fickle friend. Discipline is the bedrock of habit. So, what do you do when motivation wanes? You stick to the plan. You do the reading, even if it's just for 5 minutes or a single page. The key is not to break the chain. Every time you read, even when you don't feel like it, you're strengthening that habit muscle. You're proving to yourself that you can follow through.
And those small victories, or rather, those consistent actions, build up over time. It's the aggregation of marginal gains. So, to recap, making reading an unshakable habit involves first, consistently reminding yourself of your why, your core purpose for reading. Second, actively selecting books that genuinely excite you and curating a diverse reading list.
Third, making the reading experience as efficient and enjoyable as possible using techniques like speed reading, and importantly, staying engaged through active reading. Fourth, having a robust retention system to see the tangible benefits of what you're learning, which in turn fuels your desire to read more.
Fifth, integrating reading into your daily routine through habit stacking or utilizing time like commutes for audiobooks, so it becomes a natural part of your day. And finally, crucially, relying on discipline over motivation. Show up and read, even on days when you don't feel like it, to avoid breaking the chain of consistency.
You've summarized it perfectly, Lisa. It's about creating an environment that supports reading, making it easy to start, enjoyable to continue, and rewarding to maintain. Over the past 11 episodes, we've built a comprehensive approach to reading. Now, it's up to you to put these principles into practice and build that unshakable habit.
It's a journey, for sure, but one with immense rewards. You're not just learning to read more, you're learning to live a richer, more informed life.
Next episode, The Lifelong Learner's Blueprint. Welcome back to The Reading Habit. Let's explore reading more, remembering more, and learning more.
We're nearing the end of our series, Alex. We've covered how to build a reading habit and how to remember what we read. This episode is all about becoming a lifelong learner.
Correct, Lisa. A lifelong learner is someone deeply curious and committed to expanding their knowledge. Reading is a powerful tool for this, offering new ideas and perspectives with every text.
We started by understanding why reading matters in episode 1, how it enhances our cognitive abilities. It's an investment in our minds.
Then, we focused on the practical, crafting your reading identity in episode 2 and selecting books strategically in episode 3. You need to read what genuinely interests you.
Reading mechanics were next, with speed reading basics in episode 4 and advanced techniques in episode 5. The aim was to read more effectively.
Speed is just one factor. Episodes 6 through 8 highlighted active reading and retention. Active reading means engaging critically, not just skimming.
Building on that, episode 7 introduced note-taking to capture insights, and episode 8 focused on a system to retain those ideas. This is key for lifelong learning.
With those systems, curating your reading list, as we did in episode 9, becomes strategic. Episode 10 then showed us how to integrate audiobooks to learn more, even when busy.
That integration is so valuable. Episode 11 expanded our view to fostering a reading community. Learning from others can be incredibly motivating.
And all this effort leads to episode 12, where we focused on making reading an unshakable habit. When reading is second nature, continuous learning is nearly guaranteed.
So, episode 13's core message is this: a lifelong learner has built systems for continuous, self-motivated learning. They understand knowledge is dynamic and reading is their primary vehicle, fueled by curiosity and effective strategies.
Exactly. They use reading to evolve and understand themselves and the world better. They actively seek information and challenge assumptions. It's about proactive personal growth, with reading as the fuel. Think of your mind like a garden. A lifelong learner is constantly tending to it, planting new ideas and harvesting new knowledge.
That's a wonderful analogy, Alex. It emphasizes the ongoing cultivation of the mind, the joy of discovery. These strategies aren't just for a challenge, they're tools for a lifetime of learning.
The blueprint is set. As our series concludes, remember your reading journey is just beginning. Continue building, exploring, and learning. This is the blueprint for the lifelong learner, embracing curiosity always.
As we prepare for our final episode next time, where we'll wrap up the series, remember the power you possess. Your ability to learn is within reach, and reading is your most powerful instrument.
Next episode, your reading journey continues. Welcome back. Today we conclude our series on making reading a powerful habit.
It's been an incredible journey, Alex, covering so many ways to enhance how we read and learn.
We started by understanding reading's foundational importance for critical thinking and empathy. It opens up worlds and possibilities.
And then we moved into practical steps, like selecting books that genuinely spark curiosity, ensuring our reading is always relevant.
We explored techniques to read more efficiently, focusing on how to process words faster and reduce distractions that can slow us down.
Beyond speed, we emphasized active reading, truly engaging with a text by asking questions and making predictions to ensure comprehension.
This deeper engagement was supported by effective note-taking strategies, helping us capture and organize key ideas from what we read.
Our notes then become part of a personal retention system, essentially building a readily accessible knowledge base for future reference.
We also talked about curating your reading list, ensuring a steady flow of interesting and beneficial material to keep your reading momentum going.
And we integrated audiobooks, recognizing them as a valuable tool that complements traditional reading and expands our learning opportunities.
Fostering a reading community was another key, as discussing books with others adds new perspectives and maintains motivation.
Then we focused on making reading an unshakable habit, discussing how to build consistency through goals and dedicated time.
This leads us to the broader concept of becoming a lifelong learner. Reading is a core pillar for continuous personal and professional growth.
So, the ultimate takeaway is that consistent, engaged reading is a transformative practice. It truly empowers you to expand your mind and understanding.
We've equipped you with strategies for selecting, reading, remembering, and integrating reading into your life. The continuation of this journey is now in your hands.
Keep turning those pages, keep exploring new ideas, and continue to grow through the power of reading.
Thanks for listening to the series.